I wish I was taking that one to Moab. I think I had it all rad, ready to go. My trailer might not line up because it was on like 3 feet of snow and now it's melted down. Oh God, I almost fell. I might have to break out the high lift. It's not really doing it. Oh. The last time I moved the trailer, there was like 2 feet of snow on the ground. So my like wood, watch out for the dog poop. My wood situation is not totally right. So we gotta high lift it up with the one off the Mazda. It seems like if you're an off-road guy or a car guy in general, everything becomes a project. Even hooking your trailer up. Yeah, those are good. All right, let me pull it out of this little spot and we'll talk about it. This Dirthead shed, it's time to get ready for my trip to Moab with my Jeep, but first I had to dig out the old trailer and my tow rig, and I wanted to show you what that stuff's all about. All right, so after having a bunch of different tow rigs over the years, I went from everything from square body Chevy with a big block in it to Cummins powered Dodge trucks. I had 2 of those. I even used motorhomes for a couple of years. And after all of that messing around, I finally came around to my senses and I bought a new truck. I was tired of my tow rig being something that always needed a bunch of work. So in 2020, right around the height of COVID, I was like, I want to order a new truck, or I actually went to go and buy a new truck, and the trucks on the lot were not what I wanted. So I went into the dealership, I sat down at the computer, and I built exactly what I wanted. So when I went into the dealership, I was like, I want a truck that I can afford. I have this truck to put down, I have a little bit of money saved, and I only want to finance X amount of dollars. X amount was 30 grand at the time because I didn't want payments higher than that. So I was able to sit down at the desk and build this truck on their like, I don't know, the Ford site. And I was like, I have a camper I had already purchased and it was too big for my truck. So I knew I needed a 4,000 pound payload capacity for my slide-in camper. I knew that I wanted an automatic transmission, and Ford has a 10-speed automatic. So it was like, the more gears, the better right now. So that's sort of what drew me to this truck. I was able to build this truck out pretty inexpensive because it doesn't have a whole bunch of technology built in. I don't have screens and GPS and all that. It's pretty bare bones. You can see it has the STX package, which means cloth seats. It does have carpet. There's no navigation and big sound system. Which is fine. It still does all the things I want it to do, but really what I was going for was that new 10-speed transmission, and then they offered this Godzilla 7.3 gas engine. It's kind of a hot button right now. This engine is back to being a pushrod V8. It makes a bunch of horsepower, a bunch of torque. I think it's above 400 on both of those. And it should, and it does, perform better than my old Cummins trucks did. So that was all big selling points. I'm not a diesel guy. I don't like diesel exhaust fluid. I don't like the packaging of all the intercoolers and turbos and all this stuff that can go wrong. And when you look under the hood of this truck, it's like very simple. So the Godzilla engine was an upgrade. It cost me an extra 2 grand over the smaller 6.2 liter, I think. But in my opinion, that was like a really good starting point. So check it out. I was kind of picky on options that I got. And one of the ones I wanted was, I got the snowplow package, which actually lifts the front of the truck like 1.5 inches, and it gives you an option for dual alternators. So I got the snowplow package. That's got my lift in the front. I also opted for their all-terrain tires. It was only another $150 for the all-terrain option, and I was like, well, if I can upgrade my tires and get 6 of them for an extra $150, that's money well spent. So these are a Michelin something or other. They've been on here for 22,000 miles. They're doing okay. They're not a bad tire, but there's definitely room for improvement. One of the other things I did right out of the gate was just put better shocks on it. It has Skyjacker M95s on it. That's a nitrogen charged monotube shock. And over the stock performance, that was a really good upgrade. So all in all, the front of the suspension's all basically stock, just a little bit of an upgraded shock and a little bit of a factory lift with that snowplow package. So the biggest project that I've tackled on this truck has definitely been the rock sliders. These things are 12 feet long, I think. They're massive. It's a crew cab long bed pickup, and I wanted a rock slider basically so that I had some protection if I'm pulling into a campground. I just wanted something that would stop from banging up this aluminum body. These new Ford Super Duties are all aluminum bodied, and if you whack one of these things on a tree stump or a rock in your campsite, you're gonna have a bad day. So rather than buying rock sliders or buying actually the real reason was the factory steps were like an extra $1,000 or something ridiculous. And I was like, well, I'll just build some sliders for it. They'll work as steps, they'll protect the body. And then if you look over here, I also added in a spot and a gusset so that I can tie my camper tie downs to that. So these things sort of work as a whole bunch of, it's like a Swiss Army knife of rock slider protection, step, all of that in one shot. So this was a fun project. They're actually welded to the frame. Might have avoided my warranty by doing that, but I like how secure they are and I like the way they look on the truck. All right, when I was buying the truck, I actually tried buying an F350 long bed single axle or single wheel, and I was about to sign the deal on it, and I was trying to weasel some floor mats out of the dealer, and they were like, no way, we're not giving you floor mats. And I was like, I was getting really mad. I was about to walk, and then I was like, you know what, what's the payload on this F350? And he was like, 2,600 pounds or 2,800 pounds, something like that. And I was like, well, dude, my camper is like 3,800. Like, I don't want to buy a brand new truck and have to put airbags and heavier duty tires on it. So that was sort of the point where I went to wanting a dually, because the payload on the dually in stock form was just over 4,000 pounds. So technically this truck can take that camper shell that I have, or that slide-in camper, without adding a bunch of extra money into it and like working on the chassis. So that's why I've got the dually. And the other upgrades I did when I bought this truck, I paid for the factory fifth wheel hitch. I really liked that they have a cast iron bracket that bolts to the frame, and the flip over ball, or the pocket with the hidden ball, is concealed in there. It looks factory because it is. I did pay a little extra for some tie down points. These things, like, you can unlock them. I don't know, it was like $75. I was stoked on that. So, and then I also got the factory wiring for the camper. So these are the only upgrades I got in the back of the truck, was the fifth wheel, cross member, the wiring, and these little guys here. After the fact, I took it over and had this custom bed liner sprayed in it. So this thing's cool. It's all business. I don't have any fancy automated tailgates. It doesn't have that step and all that stuff, which the step is cool, but it wasn't in my price range. All right, that's the quick rundown on my tow rig. I think this was a pretty good purchase. I have enjoyed owning it. I've had it for almost 3 years now. Everybody always wants to know, what's the gas mileage on this thing? Well, unloaded, just driving, like highway mileage, the best I've ever gotten was 14.5, which I feel is pretty good in a big truck like this. My old crew cab Chevy square body, that thing got like 7. So I've been able to get 14.5 on the highway, unloaded. When I'm towing in this fashion, like open car trailer with a Jeep on the back, I usually get about 9.5 to 10.5 on road trips. So those are the numbers I'm getting. It has plenty of power. I don't ever have problems climbing hills or keeping up with traffic. My dog's barking at passerby. I don't ever have problems keeping up with traffic or pulling grades. This thing does a really good job. The 10-speed automatic is where it's at, and the engine basically feels like a really good running old school 460 Ford. There's nothing else to say about it. It just runs good, it pulls good. It doesn't have that like throw you back in your seat power that the 6.7 diesel has, but it might. I've never actually even tried to like do a burnout in this thing. So I have sort of been babying this since I got it, but I like it. It does everything I've wanted it to do, and it's comfortable. It seats like 75 people in there. You can party down on any road trip. Everybody's comfortable. And let's go talk about my trailer. That thing's kind of cool too. So this trailer, this is the vehicle that I've owned longest out of anything I've got. I bought this trailer brand new from Carson Trailers in 2005. I paid $1,850 for it, and that was probably the best money I've ever spent. Having a car trailer is awesome. I mean, yes, you get people are always trying to borrow it from you, and if they do borrow it, it shows back up with like a broken taillight, or there's always problems. But this thing sitting in the backyard, knowing that at any given time I can like throw it on the back of the truck, go pick up a broken project, or help a friend out on the side of the highway, like this thing's great to have around. So the specs on this thing, if I remember right, this is an 18-foot deck. It's extra wide. Those were the options that I added on. Was I want an 18-foot deck, a little extra wide so that my rock crawlers typically fit between the wheel wells. The Mazda's a little wide, and it has to climb up on one of them. I did the dovetail in the back, which just drops the back of the deck about an extra 2.5, 3 inches. It is a 7,000 pound trailer, so it's got two 3,500 pound axles. They're 5-lug, 15-inch wheels. I'm running Freestars on it right now, which they've been pretty good. I've had these on here for like 3 years and haven't had a flat yet. Yeah, it's just a good little trailer. Every time I take it out, or every year, it seems like I have to throw a new set of tail lights on it because I'll end up whacking those. And if I had more time, I would build some cool light boxes and make all these fancy upgrades to the trailer. We always talk about doing all these upgrades to the trailer, and then at the end of the day, I end up just greasing the wheel bearings, checking the lights, and hitting the road. So yeah, trailers are cool. It's always good to have one around. This one's been in my fleet longer than anything, so it's part of the family. It's due for some help. I imagine if I get a little bit of time this summer, we will be throwing some new trailer fenders on it and probably fixing taillights again. And now that I've got this YouTube thing going, we'll probably do it on the channel. So if you're interested in seeing any of that, let me know in the comments. I think all that type of stuff is fun because projects like that are good entry-level projects that you could do at home if you have a welder and a couple of a grinder or two and chop saw. So like everything I own, I wasn't able to leave it totally stock. And since I've had this thing for so many years, it has needed some maintenance and stuff along the way. I think at some point in time, I went back and I repainted the whole frame with a black Rust-Oleum paint. And at the time, I had my buddy Mikey Rat stop by, and he pinstriped the fenders for me and did some stripes along the sides of the trailer. I just wanted something that looked cool. And I actually wanted the pinstriping on the fenders so that when I'd look in the rearview mirror, it was easier to see where they were at. So custom pinstriping done by Mikey Rat. That was a really fun little weekend project after I painted it. It has had, I think this is either 1 or 2 new decks on it. These trailers come with the cheapest, most garbage wood ever purchased when you buy them. So the first deck lasted about 2.5 years, and it had big knots in it with holes that were coming through. So I put a little bit better quality wood on it and stained it. It looked really good for a year or two. Now it's just an old trailer. And then on the front, I built this like drop-in box that I was able to keep firewood and some spare parts in. that was a fun little project. I made that when I did the wood decking, and I was just kind of like, man, there's like all this space down here. I might as well use it for something. And at the time we were camping in the desert a lot, hauling my rock crawler, hauling a dirt bike, and being able to put some firewood in that little drop down pocket was a cool way to do it, so that you didn't have it loose and flopping around and wanting to roll off the flat deck of the trailer. The other thing I've done is I scavenged up some free to me old metal box, and that's what I use for my tie downs. And a few other things up there. So it's all in all, it's just a crummy old trailer, but to me, it's like part of the family. This thing's been around forever. So that's it for a quick overview on my tow rig and my trailer. Thank you guys for watching. I'm gonna go back there, grease those wheel bearings, check the shackles, change the oil on the Ford, get the Jeep ready to go, and then I'm out of here heading to Moab. Keep watching, and I will show you more about how this thing performed along the way and what mods are coming up next. Do we do that these days? Kids are still talking about liking and comment. Hit the ringer bell. I appreciate you guys watching all this stuff. And every time you do hit that like, you comment, you hit the subscribe, you hit the bell ringer, all that stuff. It all helps out a lot. Thank you guys so much.